Hey y'all, so these are our sphere exercises that we're going to be working on after we finish our grid, color wheel, and things. The first one is you're going to pick a color in black and white. That's the one I'm doing right now. And then we'll do an analogous, and then we will do a color and its complement. So the good thing about acrylic is you can layer it really nicely and you can blend it pretty easily. So on all of these, the first thing I like to do is kind of block in my sphere to get that basic shape, and then I would go through and paint my background, or at least the floor. And then I would go back in and continue to rework my sphere until I'd achieved the values that I wanted. Okay. So I've got a cast shadow. We want to make sure we include that. We want to have that little sliver of reflective light at the bottom. And then we also want to make sure that we have a highlight on here. When you are painting your sphere, you want to follow the shape, okay? You want to follow that nice curve shape of it, which you'll see me do in all of these. You can turn your paper as needed. All right, so this one was analogous. Now you can kind of go two directions with this. I chose to do only primary and secondary, so I did blue, green, and violet. However, I could have done blue, green, and green for my analogous too. Okay. Now with this, you can only use your analogous colors, no black or white. So once you pick those, you kind of have to determine how you want to establish that shadow and that highlight on your sphere. After I started working, I remembered how terrible and thin the violet paint is, and so I did actually add a tiny bit of white to see if I could thicken it up and see if I could if I liked it a little bit more. It was okay. Wouldn't recommend it again. And then, okay, that's my background, solidifying that form a little bit more. The fun thing about these spheres, I want you guys to kind of play with some of your little brush marks maybe in the background to give it a little bit of texture. Sorry, I revisited my monochromatic one here. To give it a little bit of texture in that background, makes it a little bit more interesting to look at. So I'm actually letting my cast shadow and my analogous dry, and then I'm going to go back and add another layer. All right, so this is your color plus complement. So I'm using blue, which means I'm going to be adding in some orange to show that shadow. With this one, I kind of overworked it a little bit and had to let it dry and kind of come back to it towards the end to kind of fix it up some, because I felt like it just got overworked. You kind of lost the highlight, you lost the core shadow, all of that. Now, the fun thing about acrylic is your lines you can paint with your paintbrush, okay? So you've noticed on all of these, my shadows, I did draw them originally with pencil, but of course I went back and covered them up when I started painting. And you can go back and draw things with your paintbrush, which we'll actually do in some of our projects. We'll be sketching with our paintbrush. But adding in that background, kind of closing that shape. We don't want to be able to see any of the tag board behind our spheres. The color and complement seemed the most difficult for me. It definitely took some time, and it took some reflection of like working on it and then kind of coming back to it. So if you have to do that, that's totally okay. I'd rather it be right than wrong.